last weekend I went to a pumpkin patch, and there were just so many. I mean, like, look at this guy. Look at him. Look how funky this little gourd is. That's not a
What are
normal
you gonna
gourd.
do with that?
Absolutely nothing. It's decoration at then. And then I got this pumpkin, which the color is not showing up well on the camera, but it's like bright yellow. It's a yellow pumpkin.
Bright yellow?
Yes. Welcome to Another Turning. I'm Jessi, and my brother Ben and I are on a quest to inform everyone about the upcoming Amazon adaptation of Wheel of Time, our hopes, our fears, and our grand opinions. Follow along as we revisit some of the history of the series' path to the screen and predict what is yet to come.
Welcome to another episode of Another Turning.
Today we're going to do a bit of a spooky Halloween special and talk about some of the scary stuff in Wheel of Time. Now, to clarify before we get started, is this going to be full series spoilers, I assume?
I think it's gonna have to be if we want to cover a lot of spooky stuff, because if we just try to keep it spoilers only for like the first two books, there's a good creepy scary stuff, but not enough for a very long episode, I feel.
Okay, so if you're here and you haven't finished the whole series, unfortunately you're going to have to click away. Okay. So in true fashion, I have
That's why I
done...
look like this.
Yeah, so if you're watching this on our YouTube, which we'll make sure we post this in time for Halloween, Ben's doing his face up while we talk.
I'm actually hiding the scary face, to be honest, but
I was
I
going to
I
do
can.
something. I did have my nails painted a couple days ago, but it immediately chipped off, so...
Believe it or not, using a webcam to try to apply makeup is not the best in the world. I don't even have a full screen. It's the normal Zoom screen, so
Yeah.
yeah, not the best. But we'll see.
So in true fashion, I did not do any prep work for this. I meant to, but then this week was crazy for me. I had like 3 papers due this week, so I did not have the free time to do some
Yeah.
like research. But
What would be the fun in doing research?
so I guess if we want to start out early.
All right. I know we talked about this for the first episode / early on in the book is the Rand and Tam walking in. Now, we both agree that that should be done creepy. I don't know if it necessarily comes across as creepy in the actual book or if that's just the way I imagined it.
What with Rand seeing the fade for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it has. It's not scary. It's not like jump scare. Oh no, adrenaline rush. But it is creepy and
That's why I
eerie.
specified creepy because scary, the only scary stuff is like the aftermaths of battle type stuff. You think about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But as for creepy, like I said, I definitely think that fits into the category of creepy in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think in the show specifically, if they do it right, if they like play with the music, do those typical horror movie tricks to like really get your like heart. You want your heart pounding. Your heart's not racing, but it's pounding. That kind of vibe.
Exactly. But other than that, I mean, so first book, we get through that little scene there. And then kind of the attack. The attack on the farm is that's
Yeah,
scary. It's meant
I
to be
think it could be
scary.
scary. I think they could go for just like the action vibe, or they could go for the scary vibe. Depends on kind of what they want to go through for the show. I think the way it's done in the book is very scary and very tense. Because it's done with like the sudden fade, or not fade, the Trollocs suddenly bursting in, and then the fight, and then the run, and the that panting, and the heart racing, and yeah, I think it could be that way.
It definitely starts with like a jump scare type moment.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards it becomes very much, yeah, it's a high adrenaline situation. It turns more into would be adventure stuff after that initial jump scare until he's going through the woods. And then it goes back to that very thriller-esque creepy vibe when he's going through the woods.
Yeah, it's that.
Um
The whole scene of him dragging Tam is just so tense, and
exact.
yeah, I think
Then
that's
after
a good.
that, most of the stuff is, I mean, the dream sequences. those are a huge thing for
Yeah, they could bring
creep
in horror
factor.
there. I don't know.
Well, I
And
mean, it's
then, I mean, but I also think things Shatter Logith and The Ways are two of the creepiest things I've read in like any fantasy.
yeah, I would agree. For me, the biggest scary stuff is the concept of the unknown, and
Hmm.
both in Shadow Logith and Traveling the Ways, the big enemy is a huge unknown.
I think The Ways in particular really preys on that. It's dark, you can't see, you don't really know what the black wind is. That's really honestly horrifying. Shadow Logith, I think it's less so. I think Shadow Logith just has those creepy abandoned city vibes. And obviously there is
Depends on
some
how
sort
they
of creature lurking there. But
depends on how they decide to approach it. If because in the book the boys are like oblivious to there being danger in this city for some reason.
right. And I
And I
think
can't remember from my first read if I was like, obviously you're like typical horror movie, don't go in that room sort of thing. You know you shouldn't explore the city.
right.
But
And I think they could do the same thing there with like giving the audience cues that the boys aren't seeing. So I don't know how ham fisted they would want to go, how heavy they would want to go, but like at the very least, they could do like the music, the lighting. Like those are kind of things that cue to the audience subconsciously, even not even necessarily consciously, but subconsciously, like this is dangerous. But they could even do, why is Pokemon the only thing that's coming to mind for what I'm thinking right now?
I
But
don't
the
know what I'm trying to think of, so
idea that like you have somebody's going through a city or a building or something and they walk past and then something flits across the screen, and for some
mm,
reason only all I can think of right now is Pokemon, because I know they do it in one of the Pokemon movies.
oh
um,
okay.
but like that kind of thing where like you have a character walk past a hallway and then you see like a shadow flit across the hallway or that kind of thing. So if they wanted to be a little like heavier on it, you could have stuff like that in Shadow Logos too.
I definitely agree. I think it'll be pretty much Shadowloak how I imagine it. It'll be your typical like horror movie walking through creepy woods, creepy anything, and you're waiting for something to jump out. And we don't get that necessarily, which is I think kind of a weird take because it's all of a sudden it might be like a little bit of a surprise when oh my gosh,
More
what's his
death.
name shows up, Nordeath shows up, and but it won't be a jump um, so
No, and because like
until
he
later.
shows up, I mean, like there's that like moment when he shows up because you're like, who is this guy and what is he doing here? But then I think in the book we don't know it because like we can't know it until it's told to us by the characters. But him not having a shadow, I think that's something viewers will pick up on.
I think for readers, they'll be looking for it.
Right, obviously.
Um, for first-time viewers, I say 50-50 on things like that. There's a lot of stuff in movies or TV shows I've watched where um I've heard later about, hey, did you catch this? There was super foreshadowing for this one character or something like that, and I didn't notice it. So
Right.
I
I
think there's
think
plenty of
it's,
stuff.
yeah, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it. I do think it's the kind of thing where I hope it's very similar to Rand's thoughts in that scene in the book where like something is off and you just don't know what. And that's what I'm hoping
Exactly.
it'll come across as.
Yeah, that'll be the biggest thing. And that'll be a lot on the lighting, the music, a lot of the atmospheric type stuff to really show what Shadow Logan is all about, and that'll be a lot of the more scarier, creepy scenes. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I think for the first season, if we're talking like first season of the show, I think those are the kind of things. Some of the dream sequences have that creepy, spooky vibe. I want the fades to be terrifying. Honestly, I hope that every time they show up on the screen, I get chills. Like, there's something
Uh,
about them.
yeah, I agree. I was actually gonna this if I felt like actually putting work into what I'm doing right now. I was debating trying to figure out how to make myself look like not a fade because that's too much like prosthetic work I feel, but
The Drakkar,
a Drakkar,
all they
which
are is
right
big eyes and like alien. Drakkars are another one I don't think are scary because I don't know. They're an
the only
interesting
reason
one.
the only reason I'm not scared about them is because a lot of their descriptions, it makes me think of old school, and I'm talking old school vampire makeup.
Yeah, they're very
Um,
much like that Nosferatu style,
yeah, that's the one.
which is kind of what
Bright
they
red
are.
lips, and it might be the inspiration for it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
they are. I mean the
but
whole sucking the soul out thing. I think that's
yeah,
kind of what they are. They're vampires, but not. Um and so I think they could be creepy, but also I think they could be not scary initially, but they do scary things, you know?
exactly. And I mean, when we the first one we ever noticed, we don't get a close look at it really,
Yeah,
and
I
I
don't think
think
we'll see one season one, to be honest.
uh, it depends.
Because the first
If
one we
they
see is that one with Moraine that we see like up close.
well, yeah, up close, but I meant in the whole chase sequence early
Mm-hmm.
on, it could be done in a way that it is much scarier than it seems in the book because it will be nothing but a dark. Again, it'll be like the unknown. They might go full on where you can tell it looks like a bat in the air, and everybody's gonna think, oh, it's just a vampire then.
Which I'd be
Uh,
kind of okay with. Like,
so when it lands and it's just a shadowy creature, because does it actually land or does it just swoop low over top of them?
there are a couple scenes where it swoops kind of low, I think. I think it swoops low when they get on the Terran ferry, maybe. Um,
Something like that.
but yeah, it
Uh,
doesn't really. We never see it up close. We only ever see like this in the first book. The first time we see one like described is when
in
the
book
one
two.
attacks Moraine.
Yeah. Let's see. Look, I did a scroll
Honestly,
face.
Drakkar super underutilized in the series.
Um, it's true. I don't know what the choice with them were, and I'm one of those people where I try not to put words in the author's mouth or
Obviously,
anything like that. So I have no clue. Now, I'm trying to think. Yeah, in book one, that's pretty much it. I mean, the Pat and Fane stuff, uh, that'll be the biggest thing where I'm curious to see how they do that because I think his progression, if done well, will be really creepy for him later on.
I mean, I definitely think by end of the series, like book 14, Fane, horrifying,
Well,
absolutely
yeah.
horrifying.
But
Um,
even in season one-ish stuff, it'll be because I've talked about it is one of the scenes I think will be super pivotal for his characters when he's first introduced. Is he has
mhm.
to come off as super jovial, like he might he's described as maybe a little skeevy, but not noticeable to our main characters because they're so naive. But he's a jovial merchant, peddler, and so to see that, and by the end of the first book, how stark of a contrast the changes, his slow degrade over time to be unrecognizable will be kind of creepy. Seeing the craziness start to come out as he gets corrupted by certain aspects over time, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, he definitely could be. He could definitely be. And I think there's moments. I mean, like even if we're talking like the book two, the hunt for the horns sections, like the stuff he does, awful. Like that first scene
Okay,
when
if
they
we're gonna talk
cross.
book two, then let's get into book two stuff
Yeah,
since I think
like
it's everything in book one, really.
right. I mean we've dwelled a lot on Fane's escape and how like
Yes, yeah,
creepy
that
and
we
that
are.
is. But even after he escapes, like that moment with the mirror draw where they find the mirror draw like nailed to the
I know.
one door, like and I but those are things that are like going into the gore and the creepy. I
Yes.
I'm trying to think if book two, other than like stuff with Fane, really has those horror moments.
Um. Oh my gosh, I don't know if there are any. The gateway travel, the one scene where Rand earns his first Heron mark, has a bit of a creepiness
Uh
to it.
yeah, in the mirror world, that like mist and Diazmond and yeah.
And I know we've talked about it. The certain things like the room with the flies. Um,
Even the flicker sequence, if they do the flicker sequence really well,
depends on how they do that.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It could either come across as just weird, or it could come across like completely horrifying. Um, or
Yeah,
same thing.
definitely.
There are a lot of little things they could do. Like if they wanted to go more horror with Nynaeve's testing, they could do that.
Um, the first one will very much have horror elements. It's a being chased by a monster.
Yeah, that's a little bit. That's that
And very
thriller.
implied rape along with that, which I don't know if that'll come across in the show, but in the book, it's very
You know, I will
implied.
see how they do it. Yeah, there's that. But even the second one, like the like, which is the
Coming
one
back,
with the new wisdom taking
yeah.
over, and she's like torturing everybody. She's got like everybody under her thumb. Like even that's got like more subtle domestic horror vibes to it.
Oh, exactly. The third one, obviously, is just,
Well, that's the. It's not. This is so scary, and I need to get away. It's I want to stay here, which
yeah.
is different kind of
But yeah,
fear.
the first two definitely will have very creepy factors to it, depending on how they film it. If they extend how much we see of Egwene in Shan Chan, it's a different kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not in the theme of scary though, but I thought I'd just mention
Well,
that
it's scary
because
for very different reasons.
yeah, but we're talking Halloween type scary stuff, so it
Yeah.
doesn't quite fit.
I mean, I don't know if
Um,
you want to like go book by book, but I mean, I feel like at some point we have to skip
well, I
ahead
thought
to.
we'd just talk about kind of like season one stuff then for a
Okay.
little bit. So, what are some of the creepiest moments? I mean, anything Pat and Fane does.
Well, and I'm thinking of specifically, I think the most, if we're talking Halloween esque thing, if they wanted to do like a Halloween special, I don't think anything is better than Hinterstap. Hinderstrap,
Hinderstap.
Hinderstap.
That is by far like a Halloween special.
It really is. It just got, it has that vibe to it. And it's not even like this is the, I don't even think Hinterstap is like the scariest thing that happens in the
But
series.
it's
It's
yeah.
just got that vibe.
Yeah, it's got like a Simpsons Halloween horrors like episode type to it, or
Yeah. Yeah.
like
I
any
think
normal
it's,
TV show that doesn't have like your sitcoms or anything like that. It has a special Halloween style to it. But I love
mhm.
it anyway. It's definitely wonderful.
I love it. I think it's cool and I think it's really creative how it gets used. Um, I think
Exactly.
that, I mean, the ones that stand out to me, there's that. I mean, there's lots of like Ghosts, the disappearing town that Matt, I don't remember what
Oh
book
my
it
God,
is.
the I forget which one, but yeah, a lot of the bubbles of evil type stuff could
Uh
just
huh.
be a montage of Halloween scares. I mean, from the first big one we get where
The freaking,
Perrin attacked by his axe.
you know, of those three, which one's the scariest to you?
Um, Scariest. I personally to experience would be Rand's,
Yeah, I think that
but
would be like the most
to
traumatizing.
watch if played upright, Matt's.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, Matt's has something to it that's just like extra special. Like, that's going to be scary to watch. Whereas like Rand's is obviously like horrifying and traumatizing, but like to watch it, I think it's going to be more actiony. Whereas I think Matt's is going to be straight up creepy.
Exactly. Um, Trying to think. The bubbles of evil are the best ones. Yeah, there's the one with the disappearing town, the guy who sinks into the road.
Yeah, no, and even I mean, I think of those though, like the disappearing town, the one that Matt goes through. That's like he realizes halfway through, like all of these people are dead. Like
Yeah, that's where the guy sinks into
that's
the road.
is that the same one?
I
Okay.
think, if I remember right.
Yeah, but even like the quieter ones, like the like funeral procession that Nynaeve watches.
Oh, the one in that they keep talking about, like all the wall guards are saying they
Mm-hmm.
see these
They're like,
people.
there's these creepy people. They keep showing up, and then she watches, and they're like, it's a ghost having like a funeral procession
Oh
over and
yeah, I
over again.
forgot about that.
Like
Oh, that
that's
is a
just
good
creepy in
one.
a quiet, almost sad way. It's very haunting. That's the word I would use for that one.
Oh
Um,
yeah, definitely. Oh, you know another kind of creepy thing
mhm.
is after the cleansing, because the female um Choden Call gets destroyed and that whole culture of people just goes and commits suicide.
The Amara. It's funny to me. Okay, so that's one not funny.
I know what you
That to
mean.
me when I read it was heartbreaking. And Robert
That
Jordan,
was the only time we met them at the end of one book when
and
it's
that to
going.
me is what made it so sad because these are people like the whole thing to me was that like this is a worldwide thing that's happening, but we're only getting a very small view of what's happening. And then to see their actions causing this massive effect over here, to me was sad. It was tragic. And Robert
I want
Jordan
to.
has said that that's one of the saddest scenes he ever wrote. And most fans' reaction to it is, it's not sad. Why should we care about these people? I'm like, because.
It's okay. It's the concept of it's like somebody dies, hundreds of people even die. It's sad. But when a culture dies, and I feel like I've read
Hey,
more with talking about something along these lines, but when a culture, the last person like of a culture or something like that is like a big deal in some things. And that's it. We meet these people at the end of whatever book number it is that they cleanse the source. Because we just find out like the one saw like the glowing of the statue and
right.
freaked out about it. Um, and then I think it's in the next book,
It probably in the
or
prologue.
no, I don't know. I mean, we get tricklings of it if I remember right, but we find out about like these people who never go on boats, which are the opposite of the sea people with
Oh
weird
yeah, because we find out
relationship.
about it like way later. Because like in that whenever it is, the guy talks about something like it's time to end the illusion or something,
Yeah, something
and
like that.
then way later, it's the sea one of the sea folk tells somebody else about it.
Well, we get it's like trickling of news finding out that these people who live on land, the opposite of the sea folk, we learn a little bit about them and said for the first time that anybody's ever known, they're all booking passage, which we don't get the whole story there. We just find out, okay, so these people are all of a sudden getting on boats. Where are they going? And I think it's even later that we find out these people are just going out on the boats and jumping ship. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's such a crazy concept.
Yeah, I don't know if that would fit in like the horror scary. It is though really sad and haunting. It's on
It's
that
similar
vibe.
to the hinders tap concept to me, like the concept of a whole culture from one event deciding to all get on ships, go out into the sea and jump ship. Like portrayed right, that is super creepy story.
It could be. It could be. I don't know how much they're gonna focus on that.
Well, I'm not talking about what they'll
Uh,
actually do in the show, but
Yeah, let me think of some other stuff. There's a lot of really, I mean, Fane, the Golem. We haven't even talked about the Golem.
yeah, the Golem. They're honestly, I think the scene with when Matt finally defeats the Golem might be one of the scariest scenes with it in a weird
Really,
way. Just in like an action horror type thing where it's not really scary, but it's very much not even because it's we're worried about Matt, but the fact of like the fire and all this stuff happening, and finally like it jumps through and falls into the void. It's kind of a scary concept. The only other time really would be like when we first get introduced to it.
I think there's. Oh, maybe it's not the Golem I'm thinking of. Oh no, it's a scene with Moradin, where where Moradin is like watching something in Ebudar, and he's like, there's
Oh,
like,
when they're escaping through the gateway,
yeah,
and he just like kills a person.
and he's not even like aware he's doing it. Like
God.
that moment is creepy.
Yeah, there is Moradin as a character. Just he's probably one of my favorite bad guys in a sense because when he comes back as Moradin, it's like really early on. He's very much so like just a really oblivious, creepy character. Like first few times we see him, we have no idea who this person is. Um, like he's spying on when
No, not
Samar
Samarug. Samael and Miss. Who is he doing that with?
wasn't it
Grendel
Grendel? Yeah, I don't know. When they're talking
with the
to the
Shido.
Shido, and the way that is read because it's just like this person was watching it. I get super like Predator Vision vibes
Interesting.
of like how it's
He's just.
written.
I think the thing with Moradin is that he's so cold and dispassionate. And so,
Yeah,
like, that's just as a villain, a very scary combo. Somebody that's just very powerful, but so cold is.
and you know what this is making me think about is after Mogedion escapes Saladar, and we'll first get introduced back to her when she's in Shatterlogoth, and the repeating well, first the repeating of her like getting the Corsuvra,
Mm,
like
that's a
that
creepy.
repeating dream. Plus, there's other stuff, but
Eh,
specifically Corsuvra, how it's like her screaming, and then it starts over from the beginning, and she just
that's
keeps going.
creepy. Yeah. I think, I mean, and there's lots of moments that have potential. I feel like, I mean, things that Egwene goes through could very easily be done in a horror, creepy vibe.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or they could be played a little differently, you know. Um, I mean, like Rand with in book 6, the when he's captured, like that could be played up to be very creepy and thriller, and or it could be played totally different, just as like actiony and you know.
Well, I mean, what I like about just the Trollocs alone have a horror element to them. Like, yes, people will say they're just the orcs of this world, but Trollocs are much scarier, much more monstrous than orcs or other similar type creatures, in my opinion,
Yeah, when you get
if
into
done
like their
right.
story. Speaking of shit, I hope we get this scene in the books in the show because it was just so impactful. But that scene that we get to watch one of the forgings of the Thakandar blades,
Oh,
where we
yes.
see like they just have like a herd of people to quench the blades in.
Oh, I know, it's
Uh,
ridiculous.
mm, I
I-
think,
On just the creatures and the story behind everything that has, other than the Forsaken themselves, so much because they're just normal people that had a falling out, so to speak. But everything in the lore that revolves around the creatures, to include the creating of the blades, are just very dark. Like,
yeah. And
I
people
mean,
think Wheel of Time is lighthearted and sweet.
I
Um,
mean,
yeah, but
it's
even some of the Forsaken, like Semirog, horrifying. Semirog's terrifying.
oh, I know. You want to know what I would love to see in the show, get a if see what they come up with for what it is exactly, is whatever the weird game that was played in the Age of
Oh, the
Legends by
like,
the dark people, by the
yeah, that
evil people that
with the
it like
Fisher
uses
and
living people. No, not I don't know if the Fisher was in that, but it was the whole thing like owning it was like owning human souls to play the game with or something weird like
yeah.
that.
I don't know how they'd even portray it, but that's yeah.
It always
I
made me think of like Yu-Gi-Oh! You know how like in the show how it like you have the little creatures pop up, but they're actually captured creatures you play the game with or something like that.
maybe.
Like the evil people have the real living things they play with where everybody else just plays with cards or something like that. Uh I don't know, there's so much not like beautifully creepy stuff throughout the books, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and there's
Like we
just a
said,
lot of stuff that has this like dark undertone to it. That's
oh
even
yeah.
if it's not. I mean, and in subtle ways. I mean, Rand's entire journey is a psychological thriller. You can't convince me it's not. The whole is he mad or is he just cracking under the pressure? Is he going to go crazy and kill us all? Is like,
I almost want to, and see, this is the weird thing, okay? So we hear all these stories about what happened to men who can channel. And one of the things that we get told about, yet it doesn't happen to anybody that we are aware of, is the fact that they decay.
I think it's because we
I
don't see any, because like the mental madness comes, I think, and this is my
all
explanation.
of it is mental.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is I think, given what I think we're told, the mental madness comes before the physical symptoms. So in the course of the
Well, yeah,
series, we
but
don't ever see anyone progress that bad because they take them out when they're in the mental states. But
yes,
yeah, that
but
would be a cool thing to see. I think a lot of that too. I mean, just thinking, well, bless his heart, Fedwin Moore, that scene, I mean, it breaks my heart. It really does.
when his mind just finally snaps and he
And
becomes a
he's
child.
like pulling, I hope we see this because we hear about it afterwards from Min, but he's like pulling apart walls to like use as building blocks and stuff.
I yeah, I was curious
Like,
because I think it says she was had to stop him from doing
well,
that.
she said that like I don't remember what she says because he's with Min and he's like trying to protect her. He wants to build her a castle or something. And
Yeah,
when Rand shows up, he's playing with like little blocks. And she says something about like, or maybe Rand says something about, he was trying to tear the stones out of the
yeah. I'm
wall.
curious to see how far that was going.
Yeah,
All of
that's the
that,
kind of thing that's horrifying to me. It's just like
all of
I mean,
the,
and just any of the Ashraman, like knowing that they can
yeah,
break and snap at any moment. And
all
when
of
we
the
start getting
madness
their
we hear about.
perspectives, and when we start getting their perspectives, like Andrel's whole thing is that he's seeing like shadows moving. That's
Oh,
creepy.
and if we get that from like a first person point of view, like I could just it's always out of the corner of your eye sort of thing. And it feels like, oh, who is it that he always sees Merge all around
I don't
following
remember.
him.
But like,
It's the
yeah, I
person
think,
Nynaeve Gears.
oh, I don't remember.
I think he's really good with air, helps her clean up the whole section of city that turns to dust.
Yeah, I can't remember who that is.
I don't remember either. I mean, because
Yeah, but I think like seeing that, or even like when the Aes Sedai start bonding them, like getting from their perspective what these guys are going through, or you
yeah.
know, I think they have a lot of potential to bring in some really creepy, spooky, scary elements in.
Oh no, but why I mentioned that is it just was reminding me of the another bubble of evil when a whole section of town turns to dust, but is still physically standing up until you touch it.
Ugh.
That's it.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like a Pompeii scene almost, is what it would look
Mm,
like, but much more lifelike
mm.
because much more detail.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So there's a lot of different ones. I mean, obviously there's things like Ghost coming back for the Bubbles of Evil. I mean, there's ones that are less dramatic. Yeah, less dramatic, like the one where like all of the metal like belts. Um,
Yeah.
or I mean, but there's ones that are
Oh, you.
scary in the action sense, not scary in the like thrilling sense, like when the weapons all turn on them. Was that? I
Yeah.
think that's at the Aes Sedai camp where all the weapons just like start bugs. The Wheel of Time has some really creepy bug scenes.
Oh, you're talking about when the guy just disintegrates into
Well,
bugs,
there's the one with Perrin where the guy just turns into weevils, but there's
and the
also
other.
one in the Aes Sedai camp in the Saladar camp
I'm sorry, that one's just comical.
where the cockroaches just like burst out of the bottom of the tent.
The way that is written though is so
Oh, it's
hilarious.
so creepy.
No, no, no. The beginning of it, where what
Oh,
is
where
it?
it's just like the
Swans.
cock. There's like a
She's
lump.
and Swan's like talking about it, and she's like, "Is that a cockroach?
Is
No,
it
is that
getting
a or
bigger?
is that a mouse? No." She's like, "Is that a mouse?" And whoever the other ice guy is like, "No, it's too small for a mouse."
I think
And
it
like
was Romanda or
they're
Lelaine or
just yeah, but they're having this so super distracted conversation about something moving underneath the tent when like an important meeting is going on, and it's just hilarious until they burst out. Then it gets kind of creepy.
yeah. So there's a couple really creepy bug scenes. Um, Yeah, I feel like Wheel of Time does this thing where it has this like horror, creepy undertone, but they manage to hit on just about everybody's fears. They're like, you don't like bugs? All right. You don't like creepy, dark things? Well,
Yeah.
except
Um,
snakes. There aren't really a lot of snakes in Wheel of Time. Could use more
are there
snakes.
snakes in Wheel of Time?
I mean,
We
like
know
in the
there.
waste, there's like snakes, but they're not like horror, creepy snakes. There's just
Oh,
snakes.
we know the cats in Emmons Field have 6 toes.
Yes.
It's such random facts.
Peaches
Talk
are
about
poison. Emmonsfield
pe-
cats have 6 toes.
peaches being poisonous is not like that strange of a concept because in a lot of fantasy, oh, there's usually like, I've seen stuff like that, like tomatoes being poisonous or something like that.
Well, I think tomatoes make sense because they're a nightshade, and we didn't think they were edible for a very long time. But I also think peaches have that.
All stone fruits. I was just looking something up about this, but all stone fruits, they're the pits of stone fruit have hydrogen
They,
cyanide in
yeah,
them or
well,
something
they
like that.
have a compound called amyl amygdalin,
Yeah, whatever the word is.
which in the stomach breaks down into hydrogen cyanide. So that's probably where it comes from.
But I was looking it up about it, but it's like you'd have to eat like a
Well, it's the
bag
same
full
thing.
of
Like there's
peaches.
arsenic in apple seeds, but you'd have to eat so many apple
Yeah.
seeds.
Um, but no, back to the creepy stuff. I'm trying to think of stuff non-bubble of evil stuff. That is most of the
Well,
really
and then there's
horror
just
elements in
things
my
that are
mind.
creepy because they're like creepy. Like Morghese goes through a lot of creepy stuff with like Robin. Robin's
Oh
control
yeah.
over Morghese and the other women that he controls, horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, just the
So like
concept
that's
of
the stuff that's a little more real, a little less horror, just
well,
scary.
if talking about, because I was going to just say straight up compulsion is Grendel, and just the fact that she takes these powerful, beautiful people and just has them perform, it'll have a creepy element. Obviously, it'll be a very sexual element, but
Yeah, and in some ways it's creepier than Robin because at least like Robin, with Robin you get the vibe that he's getting something out of it, you know? Whereas Grendel is just doing it to do it, which
yeah, kind of.
in some ways makes it feel creepier.
Yeah, it's very much so. But at the same time, hers is be more acceptable because there's no implication of rape with hers.
I mean, yeah, I mean this
I think if
is
you were to ask most people, they would prefer her level of creepiness with the
but
compulsion.
she okay, so just cuz she doesn't rape them, but she has them like perform sexual acts with each other.
I don't know. I
I
don't
think she
remember.
does, or at least it's implied. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's, I don't think from the victim's perspective, either one is worse. It's just, I think
Well,
reading it,
see, from I would rather be captured by Grendel because she just breaks your mind and then it doesn't matter
that's
anymore.
true.
Where
Whereas with
Robin, there's a
Robin,
chance of escaping and remembering what you went
yeah, you're
through.
still aware. Um, yeah, that's true.
Um, I mean, obviously anything Pat and Fane related, so I'm trying to avoid that.
Pat and Fane.
Um,
I mean, all
Perrin's
of the shadow
snapping.
spawn in different ways, obviously. You know, you have Fade, you know, you have Trollocs, which are just scary monsters, but then you have things like Fades, which are creepy and cold. Um, the shadow spawn. Honestly, underutilized. More shadow spawn, more diverse shadow spawn.
It pretty much gets to the point of gray men are the big thing for a while, and
Yeah,
then
it goes through. It's like a monster of the week thing almost, but
almost. I'd say Perrin, this is a kind of a scary-ish, creepy-ish type thing, is when he finally snaps when they're torturing the one-eye eel.
that is a little creepy. Ooh, speaking of Perrin, that what is his name? Not Simeon. Simeon's brother, Noel. The wolf that man that like totally lost it. That's kind of scary.
Um, I'm curious to see how they do that because
It's a
he's
little bit
not.
scary, a little bit sad.
Well, it's going to be interesting because, okay, most people, if you just told them, hey, there's this guy who thinks he's a wolf trapped in a thing and he attacks the cage like a wolf, like the door, like a wolf or something like that, people probably would instantly picture a more werewolf physique to a person. But the thing is he is a man
Yeah,
in
he's a
looks
human.
100%. And it might make it seem just more sad.
I think it'll be sad, but I also think, I mean, like, I'm thinking, like, they're in, you know, because he's, like, kept in the tack room of the stable. So they're, like,
Yeah.
approaching the stable, and then you hear something, like, launch itself against the door, you know, and you hear, like, they could, but then, like, when they actually get in the room, it's just a man, like, you
Oh, I
know,
know.
I think it can be both.
Yeah. That's a good one. I'm trying to think of other things.
It's just, like I said, it's a lot of little things.
Oh, I know.
I mean, anytime we visit Thakandar and Mount Doom or whatever it's called, um,
Mount Doom
well,
is the
it's the
main.
Mountains of Doom is the range, and then there's Thakandar, and what is the boar called? What is the prison called? I can't think of it. Anyway, um, that's always creepy, like the cave tunnel, like closing in on their
Oh, I
heads, and
know. It's so amazing. But
yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do it because
honestly, this first season I almost don't care about,
for the
to be honest. I want to jump to like season 3 or 4.
you know, I think there's some stuff. I think the stuff that I'm more interested. I think maybe because season one feels like it's so much more straightforward. I think the later seasons when it feels like there's a lot more room for
There's like
interpretation
three
and
episodes in the first season I'm gonna want to really care about. Like, I mean, I'll watch it all, love it all, hopefully. But there's like
like
3 episodes. It'd be like the first episode, the end of Eye of the World episode and then the end of the season episode.
I think there will be some interesting stuff. I'm
Yeah,
kind of excited. I
whatever
don't know. I
episode
get
Min's in.
nervous sometimes. Like I think everything I've seen, I feel pretty good about the direction Wheel of Time is probably going in. But I was just talking to somebody and they reminded me of the Lock and Key Netflix adaptation, and now I'm like, ugh, adaptations can be bad. I forgot,
Yeah, I'm
especially when it comes to horror.
I'm super nervous about it because I don't think, well, no, because we've talked about it and stuff, and there's been leaks and assumed stuff that there might be big changes that might just, I'll watch it anyways and I'll support it just because I want to have something.
I'll support the
Um,
first season. We'll see after that.
I'll support it as much as I can to hopefully it spawns other stuff like, merchandise and games. But no, the biggest thing is I was worried because there are a couple of big possible changes that I'm worried about. I'm also worried there'll be just so many, like one episode at a time, I'll be fine. But by the end of the season, there'll be so many small changes, I'll be fed up with it.
That's what like I think there's I've talked to people, there's this like threshold, right? Like if you imagine there's like this is the threshold of changes I can do, and it might be one big change that you're like I'm done, but it can be a lot of little changes that get you there. Um
And I mean, I understand the conversation of, well, if they made it exactly like the books, what would be the point? What are you talking about? I would be perfectly happy with as close to a one-to-one because obviously it doesn't translate exactly to film. But for me, I like it even if it's the same as the book because it's visual. It's a whole new medium.
yeah, I don't think the like why have it exactly the same? What's the point? I don't think that's a good argument. I do think things need to change for two reasons. I think one, because it's a different medium. Things have to be done differently. You can't do
Yeah,
the same things. But also, two, it's 20 years later, 30 years later. Things have to change. You can't keep the same.
that's always the
There's,
weird argument. I know, I understand, and it's like, what is more honest to a story, to and the whole heart and the spine or whatever that Rape Judkins set up forever ago. But it's like, how much updating because society has changed before it just becomes pandering. And I
there,
know
I think a lot of that has to do with, it's
how it's
complicated and
displayed, how it comes off.
right. I
Because
think some of it's the way it's done.
I'll use
Like,
female characters because it's the easiest and I feel like it's the least angering of any option I could choose. I have watched things that have female main characters and it's just another person and it's very supportive. Then there's the female important character that's I'm here because I'm a woman and it's like so in your face that it's obvious that they're like
mm-hmm,
look
mm-hmm.
at me because we have a female main character.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily up for like everyone to sit there and say like I say it's pandering because I think it's pandering. You know, it's a much bigger question. Um, but I think yeah, I think there's definitely a thing, and you can tell. It's not that hard to tell. It's not difficult to be
Yeah.
like you put this character in because you actually feel like there's a purpose to it and you feel like they fit, and you put this character in because you wanted to check off your gay box. You know, like
Yeah.
you can
It
tell the difference.
it also comes down to what is the point of the series you're making, so to speak.
Right.
Um, we'll take older stuff. Obviously, Wheel of Time's not old enough for it to really count, but you're like true classics, like Huckleberry Finn, for instance. Are you creating it because it's a good story, the concept of whatever, the adventure, whatever it is, but you are cleaning it up for modern society?
Right.
Or are you doing it as a see what we used to be, take
Right. And I think that, yeah, I think your purpose for adapting something has to be taken into account. Like, if you're adapting it as this is a period piece, let's look at it and look at what's changed. right? That's a very different purpose from this is a good story and this is what we're doing. And that's a very different purpose from here's a popular thing. If we adapt it, it's going to make us money. Like, and you can, I think as an audience, people have gotten very good at telling the difference. Um, but it's
Yeah,
there's
I think
certain
so.
things. I mean, like if you're making an HP Lovecraft based movie today, you're gonna change stuff because HP Lovecraft was a horrible racist. Like
I don't know. I've never read H.P. Lovecraft, so I
I
wouldn't
just
know.
tried to read an HP Lovecraft recently, and I was like, surely his views aren't gonna like color this that much. People wouldn't love it so much if it did, and it was just so.
I don't know. I don't know. I
But
just finished re-listening to what's out for the Stormlight Archive, preparing for the news book to come
ooh,
out, and
yeah,
I just
I haven't.
had some interesting questions because I'm really curious. There's some people who complain about the whole gender binary concept of Wheel of Time.
Mhm.
And I wonder if some of those same people have read the Stormlight Archive, and I'm curious of their opinion on.
Well, because I haven't read Stormlight, but doesn't he do a thing where like there's very strict gender roles, but they're very different than like ours? So like things like men
Um,
aren't allowed to read because that's for women.
it's actually not very different than real world, I would say. It's very much a exact, almost a satirical exaggeration of the whole gender roles, where there is masculine arts and feminine arts, down to the point where masculine food is spiced with spiciness. Feminine foods are sweet,
I
and they
hate that.
prepare two separate meals. There is, yes, masculine is like war and pretty much everything that goes along with that. Feminine arts are sewing and cooking and all of like your classic female thing, to include reading is a female thing, which also, depending on it's, I could see it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting. I haven't read it, so I couldn't talk about it
I
because,
know, but
like,
it's just,
from my understanding, he does that to make a point. But again, this is I haven't read it.
I
Whereas
know. That's
with
why I said it's almost like a satirical
yeah,
exaggeration. But
I think the
I'm getting
difference
off
between
topic.
that and Wheel of Time is in Stormlight, from what I understand, it's a societal thing, whereas Robert Jordan and Wheel of Time made it a like hardwired, like this is part of the world. It's not just society was built this way, it's our magic system and our world and our,
I guess. I
everything.
don't know.
Yeah, the real horror gender binaries. Anyway,
Oh no, I'm sorry. I can't continue.
that's okay. Um,
Uh,
yeah,
but no. Yeah, I think the greatest thing I think about this becoming to film or to a TV show is I think I'm most excited about the horror elements in Wheel of Time.
I think I really I've been trying to read horror. I've like tried a different books, couple different books, things that people say are really scary, and I don't get scared by books. I don't think. I think that just has to be the way it is
It's
because like,
hard.
well, like I've read a few Stephen Kings. I read Pet Cemetery. I really liked the story. I didn't think it was scary, but I really liked it. I read The Stand. Didn't care for the book, but like a lot of people say like some of the scariest scenes they've ever read were in The Stand, and I was like, I wasn't scared at all. Like
I'm with you. It's like reading a book, it's hard to be scared. Um, things will creep me out. I'll be like, ooh, maybe give me a little bit of a chill.
right. And
But
I'll be like nervous for like the characters, but I
but I'm too quickly, my nervousness for characters will turn into frustration super quick in a book.
really,
I am one of these people, like, I in my head scream at characters all the time.
yeah,
I'm
fair.
like the person that when the classic sitting in a movie theater in a horror movie and you're like, don't do that. Why would you go in there? That's how horror and books come for me. I am that, and books are at a slower pace. They describe a lot more. It takes so long to get to the payoff in horror. And that's
Hmm.
except like that's what I like about Wheel of Time. A lot of the horror elements are small parts. So I don't think I could read horror because I would be yelling in my head the whole time. Like,
That's fair. I
I to have a low tolerance for stupidity in characters in books.
to this day, the only book I've read at this point, and I'm gonna keep trying because I think I would like horror if I could get that feeling. The only book I've read that has actually scared me was this is the stupidest thing because don't think it was supposed to be scary, was a paranormal historical romance that I read.
Well, it's a romance. I can see that being very
No, it
scary to
was,
read.
I don't know, but
Redwater,
yeah.
they are very scary.
But I do think a lot of those scary, creepy scenes in Wheel of Time will come off even scarier and creepier in the show. Especially because, like,
Well,
I think there's just so many tricks cinematographers use to, like, up the creep factor, with music and
yes.
light and sound and
There are scenes that I'm hoping to get physical chills, like hair raising, like on my arm type
I'm that
scenes.
first scene, Rand and Tam on the road, I should be like
If they,
curled in a ball watching that. I should be
depending on
like,
how the, I can tell you by the end of the first episode how I'm going to feel about the show. Within the first episode, there are enough scenes and how they decide to treat those scenes. I can tell you right then and there how much I'm going to enjoy the show.
okay,
I will put a prediction out whenever this happens. I could almost tell you by the trailer, depending on how what the trailer is.
I guess we'll have to see.
I will do updates. That's going to be my goal now going forward.
Well,
I'm
I
going to
think, and I don't know if we've said this on the podcast yet, but I think we're gonna do like a live hangout, watch the first one together. So
depends if they release it as a whole season at once, then no. But
we'll see.
I mean, I might still set it up if people want to hang out, but it's not like it's going to be that big of a thing. But if it's episodic, weekly
Hmm.
releases or whatever, then I think definitely.
Yeah. Oh, so I
That's
think
for
we're
the
coming to
future.
the end of this one. Um,
Yes.
so speaking of other future things, I'm gonna say this now, and I'll post something on Twitter. I've been talking about wanting to do a Wheel of Time themed readathon. So I have the announcement for that. The official announcement and the prompt should be coming out soon. So just look out for that because I'm really excited to try to get a bunch of people involved in this. I've already got a couple Wheel of Time content creators said they'll help me out. So hopefully that'll be
Yeah,
fun.
I guess I'll have to actually do one of these things if you're doing it.
They're
I
fun.
keep wanting to, but then I'm like, well, I'm doing my
It's
own
fun.
thing.
I think there's something I couldn't do them all the time. I've seen people that do like one every month, and I'm like, but they're fun. I think there's something really neat and like picking your books you read based on prompts and like actually having a set TBR to read. That's kind of fun, but kind of
Yeah,
hard.
I imagine. Let's see other announcements. I started writing a fanfic. Woo! I don't know. I haven't gotten feedback on our Discord. I'm gonna post it on Twitter and see if I get anything. Just out of curiosity, possible Patreon thing in the future if we ever get those, because we have one of those, and you could be the first person to support us on Patreon.
And I think we have a special for whoever's our first Patreon. They get to pick a topic we talk about or something. What did you set up for
We
that?
do a special, either they can be a guest or we just create a video if they don't want to be in a video, and it'll be a special video just for them, whatever they want.
Yeah, so be our
As long as
first.
I will almost say it doesn't have to be Wheel of Time related, but
I would be
we'll
fine
see.
with something not Wheel of Time related for a special as long as it's something we can actually talk about. Like, if you want me to talk for an hour on the Broken Earth trilogy, which I've recently read and very much loved, I can do that, but Ben can't talk, so that's not very useful.
I can pretend. I
Or you
am
could read
very
it.
good
Yeah, I would say
pretend.
just read it.
I didn't realize when you first started posting about reading those books that it was the Broken Earth series. To be
They're very
honest,
good.
I
They're
know
very good.
I'm getting through stuff. I've literally, I don't know, I stopped keeping track of books I've read
I
slash
recently
listened to.
crossed 100 this year, so which is
I've
way more than I expected.
I do a lot of audiobooks, which is kind of cheating when it comes to seeing how many books you can read, but I stopped keeping
Nah,
track. I mean, I did the whole Robin Hobb
that's
series
true. You did read all of The Elderling. Is
in
she
like a
done
month.
with that, or are there more
I
coming out?
think I don't know. Um, I'd have to check.
Okay,
I'm
because I
not
might
sure.
have to speed up how fast I read those if that she's still
Look,
publishing them.
next two things on my list is Rhythm of War and the next light novel in the Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon series, because I am like
I'm
that.
working on Lady Trent right now. And I don't know, I don't have too many specific plans, but I'm working on Lady Trent and Chronicles of the Last Dragon, which is taking me forever because I hate reading ebooks. I really want to read more of Tessa Gratton stuff. I posted this on Twitter when I finished the book. I loved Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton, so I just want to read all of her books right now. So that might be what I spend the rest of the fall doing because her books have very big fall vibes, if that's something you care about.
Um, yeah, I don't
Anyway,
know. Got to read. Lots of things to read. But well, with that, if you would be so kind to, well, I don't know if people like and comment on podcasts, but if you're watching the YouTube version of this, you could like it and maybe leave us a comment. Let us know how horrible this looks.
it's not your
And what you,
best work.
I don't know. It's my if I could find my actual makeup kit, I did like a half of this with like a blood thing, so it looked like
Uh-oh, Ben froze.
my face got torn away for a zombie walk in like a half an hour. Um, but yeah, if you're on YouTube, give a like, give a comment,
Share this with your
subscribe,
friends,
share it.
please. Yeah, and then
We
follow us on our social media. We have a Twitter and an Instagram. We use the Twitter semi regularly. I use the Instagram almost never, but follow us there anyway at Pod Another. Uh, Subscribe
no,
to us on YouTube or follow us on our whatever wherever you listen to your podcast, whichever you prefer.
yep, we have a Discord. It is very small, and I like it that way, and that's fine. Cause
But we do want more people to talk to, so please join our Discord. I've been thinking if people would be interested in it. If we get to a certain number of people on Discord, I might start doing a buddy read there, like a monthly buddy read. But that's a maybe.
I
Uh,
don't know. I'm one of those people. I won't promise anything, but if you're on our Discord or if we get Patreons, I didn't put it, but it's you just get random stuff. Like I said, I started a fanfic. Don't know how often I'll update it, but that would be just something. When I
all
type it,
right.
you get it.
Okay. And we'll see you the next time the wheel turns.